Hey guys, Mike here. So boy, what a day in the market it was, right? I mean, up, away we go. Oh my goodness. And it's like, wait a minute, what happened here? All of a sudden the market starts pulling back down, even though Microsoft had a huge day from its earnings. And we'll get into Meta because that's another one. We'll see if that will pull the market up. But you can see S&P ends up red, Qs end up green, but nowhere about half what they were. And so we'll get into the charts and show you kind of what happened or what they're talking about and stuff like that. But I will start off with this right here. And this is those things I talk about when I say there's always other alternatives now, like there wasn't before when we talked about TINA, which stands for there is no other alternative for those who don't know that. And it's dead now. But Japanese stocks, remember Warren Buffett came out, showed you a couple weeks ago and said this is where he's actually investing money as well. And you can see right there in that spike what they're drawing in from foreign funds is amazing. And you can see this is one of those the large ETFs they have over there. It's at new 52 weeks highs. And of course, as we were crashing in 2022, this one was not. And so, it's had a nice big move up, a lot of money flowing into it. But the other thing to keep in mind is what's moving up in the market, right? And so we've been talking about this, and you can see the top 5 outperformers return month to date. 4 of them are healthcare, and 1 is financials, okay? And then what is the top 5 underperforming sectors? And you're looking at IT and materials, right? So keep an eye on that because that kind of lets you know where big money's rotating into and things like that. And that can always change, but just keep an eye on it. And that's something we've seen lately is them going into more defensive plays. Now, I like to update you guys on this because I told you a year ago this will happen. And we'll see how it plays out, what it's going to do. But now, because of what the Fed is doing and stuff, it costs right now annually around $800 billion to service the debt we have, which, mind you, is a lot. I mean, it's 31 trillion or some crazy mess like that. But, that's as much as we almost spend on defense by itself. And so this will continue to most likely go up. But you can see the increase has been substantial since 2022 started. And before we continue, guys, if you're getting anything out of this, please hit that like and subscribe button. Think about sharing the video with your friends and family. And if you're new here and you like the content, please hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And of course, this is important because what are they trying to do supposedly? Get down the budget deficit. And when they're trying to pass stuff, they say, hey, we got to cut. You're seeing this going right now with the debt ceiling battle, right? They want to make certain cuts, and the cuts are going to be mediocre because they don't want to touch defense. They're not going to touch Social Security or Medicare, and that makes up, I think it's 67% of the budget, if not more. And so, but that's the kind of stuff that comes up. And again, a lot of people don't think you have to service debt, but you do have to service debt, okay? That's just the way it is. I think we're the biggest holders of the debt. And, and a lot of you guys are doing what? You're holding treasuries now, right? And stuff like that. So now get into what actually caused the turn today. It could be a couple things, but one thing has been mentioned, and I didn't bring this up yesterday because I just didn't see the point in trying to put fuel on a fire. But it's, what's happened with the First Republic Bank, obviously, disastrous earnings. I don't know why anybody's surprised. The stock is down like 80% in 24 hours or something, and I think the government's going to end up taking that one over. But it's like this fear of, oh my God, what's going on with the banking sector and the regional banks more than anything else. The big ones they got so much money and capital right now, they should be fine. But, what's going on behind the closed doors, all these regional banks is a whole different ballgame, right? And they say the market's worried about it. I don't really believe that, but, that's what they say is what, in a way, caused today. And so, the biggest thing about the regional banks, and them going out of business, they shut the doors. I've showed you the chart. We got way too many banks in this country, way more than anybody else, right? And so the biggest thing, though, is what are regional banks, what do they do? 88%, I believe it was, I showed you, of commercial lending. So if all these regional banks start, tightening even more on the lending, what's going to happen to small businesses and things like that? Is that going to even make the commercial real estate problem even worse because those people won't be able to refi, those businesses won't be able to refinance that massive amount of debt that's going to be coming due here in the next 12 to 18 months? That's going to be a big question, right? So that's concerning me, not them shutting their doors, but actually having a credit crunch happen on that end of it, because that will mean, and I'll show you the bankruptcies going up, they will go up even faster if that happens. And that data is so delayed that the damage is already done by the time you even get the data, because some of it's updated every 30 days, some of it every quarter, right? And there's a lot of stuff that can happen in a quarter, as you've seen in this kind of environment. And so, just keep that in mind. But yeah, the government's probably going to take them over. or either have one of the bigger banks once again get bigger by buying them out or something like that, right? So that's probably what's going to happen. But as far as I know, they're still able to borrow money. All these regional banks are still able to borrow money, and make sure the deposit's secure. So as long as the deposit's 250K are secure, that's the big part. Now, whether or not they're going to come in and back all the bigger ones like they did with the other two banks, we'll have to find out. That's going to be a different story. But that does lead us into the charts, and you can see here that the SPY, what's it doing? It's basically filling that gap right down below. We talked about some gaps that were left behind last week. You see there's another gap right below that. You see there's an even bigger gap below that, okay? And so, we had talked about you don't want to leave behind gaps and stuff, and you can see it filled that gap perfectly before it actually bounced right there in the afternoon after it started to sell off. And something to keep in mind, looking at that volume profile, you see that volume gap right there? That allows things to come down much faster. Just like if it's moving up into a volume gap, it can move up much faster. So absolutely, can the gap, that small gap right below, get filled? Yes, it can. And so that's something we're going to keep an eye on. And the Qs, you look at this one, we talked about for 2 or 3 weeks, is that accumulation or distribution? Right now it's distribution. You see lower highs, lower lows on the hourly since the 17th, right? That trend line perfectly rejected multiple times. You see it moving to that volume gap right there down below. Hadn't quite filled that gap, even though we had, Microsoft just crushing everything else. It, just couldn't pull it out of the gutter, really. And when you look, you got this trend line right here. It goes back to March 20th. Had 1, 2, 3 bounces up, and then we got the rejection today. That was the rejection, what it rejected off of today, which would have led into filling that gap above. Now, can Meta pull the market up, right? Meta crushed earnings, double beat on top, and when you look at the usership of this thing and all the users they have, it's a lot, right? It's over 2 billion now. And so you can see from Q1 2021 what it was. And so they have grown their users and everything else. And so whether it's Instagram or whatever it is, WhatsApp, Facebook itself, the market loved it. It's up huge in after hours. It's going to open up, supposedly, if this holds, Microsoft's kind of did, it would open up right at the weekly expected move around 232, only 6% away from that huge 17% gap. And so, will big money let it not fill that gap? We'll have to see. Something crazy is going to have to happen on the earnings call or something. But again, that's all you need to know about that. I wanted to see if it's finally going to fill that gap after people were taking profits, right? Now, Tesla with an S, which I'll get to in a minute, it started to fill the gap. We talked about that, right? Which gap's it going to fill? Well, it's below the weekly expected move. It started to fill the gap. Not quite got it all yet. And as you can see, if it actually completes the gap fill, if we go all the way back, because we moved up so fast off that $100 move and so fast down, you got to go back to 2020 to even find support at the bottom of that gap. And so if you look right there, it's around 138, it looks like. And that's obviously only if it falls below that gap. But again, it's a fast mover up and down, and there's a lot of dip buyers. You can see, I'm going to be surprised if dip buyers don't just rush into this thing. But you can tell, looking on the daily, the RSI is getting into oversold territory. MACD did cross that zero line right there, which is not good. But you can tell on the hourly, it's been oversold for the last 2 days, or 3 days, excuse me, and it continues to go down and have lower highs, lower lows. And so this one needs a momentum shift quickly. And I will say real quick, I want to thank John, because he did say in the comments, I'll read them all, it's not Tesla with a Z like I like to pronounce it, it's Tesla. So got that one. Brady, you're right. Every time I mispronounce, I say Chipotle, and it is Chipotle, right? I don't eat there, and every single time they have earnings, I pronounce it wrong. The one that drives my wife nuts is I say chicken filet, and yes, I know it's Chick-fil-A, right? So not just those, but yeah, appreciate those. And then Jesus, I want to thank him because he said you got to put the word allegedly in there when you're saying Nikki Leaks gets information from the Fed. Allegedly, Nikki Leaks gets information from the Fed leaked to him, allegedly. Because like I said, we don't want any lawsuits and stuff. And then, of course, somebody asked me in the comments, something or whatever, and about being unbiased or biased, or I think they call me a perma bull, which I laughed. My wife just absolutely died laughing when she saw that one. And then somebody was saying you're being too bullish or whatever it was. But understand, on this channel, there's a reason why I try to be as unbiased as possible. I don't want to come off as a bull or a bear. And it's because I deplore major news channels like Fox, CNN, MSNBC, or whatever, because I know what they're doing, right? They're skewing their news to what their viewer wants to hear, and that was actually true, right? They don't do actually reporting anymore. It's all opinion host stuff, and they know they need to tell you what you're here to keep them on and things of that nature. For me, my mission, and the reason why I don't have the fast way to grow this channel, I told you in the past, is just to make it a bearish channel, just like the gloom and doom, the fire, the explosions, because those are the ones that grow the fastest, right? But the reason why I don't do it, because I'm on a mission, because I believe in you. I believe you're smart. I can believe you make your own decisions, right? You can take the information presented, which I try to do as unbiased, and I try to make sure it's factual information, and you can make your own decisions, right? That's what society is supposed to be like. We're in this cult, people call it a tribal society. We're not in a tribal society. That's an insult to tribes. We're in a cult-like society where no matter what you tell people, they will have those blinders on because they just want one thing to happen or believe one thing. And, you know, even if they know the people who are telling them are lying to them, they don't even care. They just like hearing it. It makes them feel good, right? Like the gloom and doom channels. They just like hearing that everything's coming to an end, whether it's true or not. You know, I told you I saw one guy's channel blew up, right? Because he was gloom and doom. And then he said it was having an effect on his mental health. So he switched back over, started reporting actual news, right? And started buying stuff, doing all this other stuff. And his channel just imploded in 30 days. So what do you have to do? He had to come back and go back to gloom and doom, right? To support the family. That's what he had to do. You know, he sold out basically. And so, you know, I'm not going to blame either way. But, you know, that's one thing I try my best on this channel. That's why it will always be a small channel. Because guess what, folks? There ain't a lot of you out there that want to make your own decisions. There's not a lot of you out there looking for an unbiased opinion. People want bias. I mean, am I wrong? Hit me in the comments. If I'm wrong, let me know. Right? I mean, I have thought about starting just a second channel of gloom and doom because I'm pretty sure I could do it well. And people just, you know, go to that and stuff. And, you know, talk about earnings real quick. Another loaded boat of earnings tomorrow. American Airlines, Caterpillar, Eli Lilly, Valero, Southwest, MasterCard, Crocs, AbbVie, Merck. Then after, everybody's going to be listening to Amazon. Obviously, Big Tech's been doing well, so we'll see what, or the Big 10, excuse me, doing well. So we'll see what Amazon does. Intel, Snap, then you go down to Pinterest, and then you got Amgen right there at the bottom. A lot of people own that stock. That's why I mentioned it. And then as far as the data tomorrow, it's going to be huge because you're going to have initial jobless claims, continuous jobless claims, but more importantly, you're going to have core PCE and then GDP, right? So people are going to be looking at that. You know, so that PCE prices and then GDP price index quarter over quarter, all that fun stuff, right? GDP growth. Then we'll have more manufacturing data out of Kansas. We'll see if people want to listen about that or not. And here is the Atlanta Fed's GDP Now real GDP estimate for 2023 Q1. This just came out today. You can see they're estimating right above, like I think it's 1.1% pretty much. And so that's what we're expecting. And I think the forecast is like for 1, but it's below 2. Okay, and we had some information come out, and it was last week saying that it looks like it's going to be above 2 for the rest of the quarters and stuff. So we'll have to see on that. And it's just going to reemphasize, like, is the economy slowing down or is it not? Is the rate hike starting to take effect? They have a lag effect. And remember, and keep this in mind, I'll say it multiple times, that the banks tightening, the Fed have already said, they consider that. Even when they pause, they know the bank's going to continue to tighten. That's like another 1 or 2 more rate hikes, which is true. It's another form of liquidity. As like a gentleman said, there's different forms of liquidity out there. That's one of them, and they affect different parts of the market and things like that, and different parts of the economy. And so you have to keep that in mind. If small companies, which are still the lifeblood of this country, can't get the funds they need to keep the doors open, that will affect the labor market, right? Because people will start to get laid off, okay? And then, of course, all of those vendors for those companies will start to feel it, and then they start to lay off, okay? The Metas get all the headlines, the Microsofts, but they don't employ anywhere near that many people. And what are they doing? They're laying off, right? They're cutting down. And so, you know, just keep that in mind. So anyway, let me know what you think down there in the comments and stuff. And hit the like and subscribe button if you got anything out of it. Feel free to share the video. Sure would appreciate it. Helps us beat the algorithm. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.